Hello and welcome back to Small Bites. I am Dr. Karen McDowell and I am here today to talk to you about journaling for overthinkers. If you have anxiety about journaling, if you feel like you can't journal, if you feel like it's too much, this one's for you. I'm here with my colleague Monique Champagne, and together we bring you Small Bites every single week, both on YouTube and on Instagram Live. Check out our YouTube every Monday for videos, and then catch us on Wednesday at 12 noon Central on Instagram Live, where we discuss the week's video and hear from you about what you think, any questions you might have, or how the video impacted you. Here at The Gracious Mind, we aim to bring you all different kinds of mental health resources, including therapy, testing, courses, workshops, videos, live chats, all kinds of things. So check out our website at thegraciousmind.com and find us across all social media platforms. Let's start with signs that you might be a journaling overthinker. You might be a journaling overthinker if you have a whole bunch of beautiful journals that are totally empty because you don't want to mess up the first page. You might be a journaling overthinker if you can't do it because you don't have the right supplies, or you don't have the right skills, or you don't know how to do it. You might be a journaling overthinker if you're worried about your handwriting, or your grammar, or your spelling. You might be a journaling overthinker if the thought of filling an entire journal seems so overwhelming that it's not even worth getting started. Something I hear all the time from people is that they love bullet journaling and they just think it's so great and it's so helpful, but they can't do it because bullet journaling is so overwhelming and there's so much to it and it just requires so much. Well, I am here today to crush all of those overthinking myths and help you tap into journaling and tap out of that anxiety. Tap out of that anxiety related to journaling. So first I want to address the word journaling, and I want to reframe it a little bit. You may have an idea or a definition of what journaling is that is different from other people's ideas. So some people, for example, think of journaling like a diary, like you're going to sit down and you're going to write an essay in your little book that nobody can ever read, and it's going to talk about your day, or it's going to tell the things that happened to you. That's one version of journaling. But often I find that people can't really think of other ways of journaling if they're stuck in this idea of a journal being a diary, a written diary. So that's what I want to do first, is I want to break this idea of a journal being a linear, you start at the beginning and each day gets a page and you write, and if you miss a day, then you've dropped the ball. I just want to get rid of all of that and think about journaling instead as a way to express yourself. Now that may be through words, but it may not be through words, and that's okay. So we're going to go into this not expecting our journal to look and be a certain way, but instead to allow ourselves to be and see what comes out. Now, if you're an overthinker, probably that just gave you anxiety. Probably me even just saying that gave you anxiety, and that's okay. This is a little bit of a challenge when you're accustomed to seeing things in that kind of linear way. So you only need two things for a journal. Two things. You need a journal of some sort, some kind of paper-bound thing, and you need something to write with or mark with. Now you can have a bunch of other stuff, and you may find yourself pulled towards different maybe pens or markers or colored pencils, and those things are fine. But really all you need is paper and pen. If I were to suggest a very basic journaling setup, I would suggest a notebook. A Moleskine notebook with dots instead of lines can be good. A lined book or a blank book, any of those kinds of things are fine. I would suggest a set of markers that are made for paper so that they don't bleed through, but it doesn't have to be. And then the third thing that I think is a staple for journaling is washi tape. Washi tape is great because it can help you in lots of different kinds of ways. It's relatively inexpensive and it adds a lot of vibrance and personality to your journal. So those are my three basic tools. Monique would probably say to add in a watercolor palette as well, because you can do a lot with watercolors. And I'm going to start by giving you some tips, just some things to think about. And then I'm going to give you some challenges, some ideas to get you started. My first tip, you don't have to use words. You don't have to use shapes or symbols or pictures or things that mean specific things. You can use color and line and scribbles and spirals and things like that to express what's going on with you in a non-literal way, in a non-wording kind of way. The human experience is very messy, it's very abstract, it's very unclear. And anxiety says, let's categorize everything, let's name everything, let's understand everything. But that's not always possible when you're talking about the human experience. So when you let go of words and you embrace color and shape and line and form and all of those things, you may find yourself better able to express because you're not trying to stay in those categories of language and sentence and grammar. My second tip, you don't have to start on the first page. As an overthinker, you probably, again, are idealizing a journal as being one page to the next page, to the next page, to the next page. You don't have to start on the first page. Let go of that idea. Start in the middle. Start on the last page. Start on the 42nd page upside down. Start anywhere. You can tear a page out. I know, as an overthinker, who would ever tear a page out of a journal? You can tear it out. You can fold it in half. You can tape things in. You can cut out pieces of it. You can do anything you want. You can write something and then cover it up. You can cut pieces out of other things and put it on other pages. You can tape pages together. One of the things I love to do with washi tape is taping other things into a journal. Your journal is a playground. It is not a sacred text. It is not some tome that holds all of your deepest secrets. It is your playground. It is your big, messy pile of whatever you want it to be. Another tip for you, it doesn't have to make sense. Again, I know that I'm crushing your overthinking heart, but it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to make sense to other people, and it doesn't have to make sense to you. All it has to do is express. And my last tip is to release the details. When you're doing things like scribbling or working with line or working with color, doing those kinds of expressions, the overthinker brain says, oh, I drew that star a little bit funny. Its little leg is a little bit wonky. Or that line is a little bit thicker at this part than it's at this part. It looks a little bit funny. We're not going for the details. This is intended to be experienced as a whole product, as a whole expression. The teeny tiny details that your anxiety, your overthinker brain is saying, fix all these little teeny tiny things, are causing you to miss the big picture of your expression. Okay, so here's some challenges for you in your own journal. Get out one of those 10 journals that you have sitting on your shelf that hasn't been opened or started yet because you're too worried about it. I'm gonna open it to the very middle, and I'm gonna borrow this from my pal Monique because this is my favorite trick that she does. Open it somewhere in the middle and scribble that whole page. Scribble, 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 scribble. Scribble big, scribble small, scribble tiny. Scribble in big loops, scribble in little jaggies, scribble in all the different ways. Fill that entire page, that whole spread up with nothing but scribbles. That is how you're going to christen your journal. My second challenge for you is on another page, a random page, any page at all, to explore lines. Use different kinds of pens or markers or crayons and try to express different feelings or different thoughts or experiences through lines. So you may find that you have had kind of a prickly day, maybe you've been irritable, you've not been feeling great, so you might draw a line that's like a bunch of little mountaintops. Just like draw a bunch of little mountain lines. You may find yourself feeling kind of freewheeling and at peace, and maybe that line is gonna look a lot smoother. Maybe the line is like a roller coaster if it's talking about how you're feeling, things you're going through in your daily life. Use lines to practice expressing. And then my third challenge for you is to do something in your journal that fits with your overthinking style. So that may be that you need to write because that's what you do in journals. So you're going to write a paragraph about what you did today. Or maybe you overthink and you make lists. Whatever that is, whatever your overthinking style is, do that on a page. And then I want you to come back and cover that up with something, with color, with stickers, with washi tape, with magazine cutouts, anything at all. I want you to just cover that up. In that exercise, I want you to consider what it means to go ahead and leave space for that overthinking and then invite in some of that messiness and that abstractness that we're talking about. So all month long, we're going to be talking about journaling. We're going to be exploring journaling as it relates to boundaries. We're going to be exploring journaling as it relates to data collection and mental health management. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things because our theme for April is expressing yourself. It's authenticity, it's honesty, it's speaking your truth and unsilencing. So stay tuned to our YouTube videos coming up over the next month, as well as our live events and things that we've got going on, because we're going to be doing a lot about journaling. Okay, to wrap up, here's the thing about journaling when you're an overthinker. You are going to have to retrain your brain to think differently about journaling. One part of that is managing your internal process. It's managing your feelings about journaling, your anxiety about journaling, that critical inner voice that's telling you you're doing it wrong, or that thing looks funny, or whatever that process is that's going on in your head, you got to manage that. And some of that retraining your brain is learning to look at things differently. If you've only ever considered words as worthy of a journal, then it may be hard to start thinking outside the box. But really, anything can go in your journal. A receipt, a sticker, a funny joke you heard, a pretty leaf you found, maybe an intrusive thought that is bothering you that you want to get out. Maybe you write that out in your journal. When you start to be more flexible about how you see the world around you, you'll start to see things that you can bring into your journal that have nothing to do with you writing paragraphs. Okay, those are my thoughts on journaling for overthinkers. Again, we're going to be doing lots of stuff this month, so stay tuned if you're into journaling. Please tune in on Wednesday at 12 Central when we're going to talk about this topic live, and you can ask us your questions, give us your feedback, and tell us anything you might want us to talk about this month as we talk about unsilencing and authenticity. Again, I'm Dr. Karen McDowell, and we appreciate you so much tuning in to our Small Bites series and all of the other work we do. When you like, share, subscribe, or comment on any of our stuff, it really, really helps the work that we're doing. Not only does it help elevate the work that we're doing, it helps make sure that it reaches people that might not otherwise have access to support. So be sure to hit us up on all the social media platforms, and we'll see you back here next week.